All right. Hello, everyone. My name is Alicia Hildebrandt, and I am the Volunteer and Integration Coordinator for Regional Connections. Part of my job is facilitating information sessions that are valuable to living in your community as well as in Canada. Today we have Brian Thiessen from the City of Morden to give us information about Lake Minnewasta. If you don't know where Lake Minnewasta is, it's just west of Morden. Brian, maybe you can give you a little bit of directions on how to get there. And yeah, so we're very excited to have him here. There are a lot of recreation facilities that are available at the lake. And so we want to just make sure that we're providing up-to-date information for people who may be interested in going there and with their family, camping, whatever they may enjoy. So yeah, I'll pass it on to you, Brian, if you want to give a little bit of information about yourself, and then I'll let you start presenting. Thanks.
Thanks, Alicia. Yeah, Brian Thiessen, yeah, as you mentioned, I'm the Lake Minnewasta campground and beach host for the City of Morden. This is my second year here on staff. It's always fun to work at the lake every summer, and I'm so happy to be able to do that. And the campground and the lake are located, just as you said, it's about 1.5 miles west of Morden on Highway 3, and it's a little bit south on Colert Road is the actual road that which it's called. And we'll get right into a little bit of what the campground has to offer. Give you a little bit of history on it first.
Sorry, Brian, I'm just going to interrupt you for just a moment. Sure. I did want to just address, if you have any questions throughout the presentation, there is a Q&A box at the bottom of your screen or a chat box at the bottom of your screen, and you can use either one of those. Brian will be available at the end to answer any questions you have, but you can use those at any time throughout the presentation, and we will make sure they get answered. Sorry, I wanted to make sure that was addressed before we continue.
Perfect, thank you. So yeah, a little background on Lake Minnewasta. A dam was constructed across the Dead Horse Creek by the Prairie Farm Rehabilitation Administration. This was back in 1942, it essentially creating Lake Minnewasta. It was done to provide the town of Morden at the time with drinking water. It was expanded in 1954, and it was at that time that Colert Beach was created. And that was named after Dr. Walter Colert, who was the principal force behind the development of the beach, and also the former landowner. He's the one who donated the portion of the land which the beach sits on. Morden grew really quickly in size, so they had to expand the dam one more time, and that was in 1982, and that is the current size in which we are at this time. And a nice little piece of history, the word Minnewasta is derived from an Eastern Dakota language word meaning good water, which is kind of cool. Portions of what we have here at the recreation area is the campground. It opens on the 15th of May every year, and we close for the season on September 15th. We have several non-service sites. We have some service sites which would have water and electricity hookups, and we also have sites that would include a sewer hookup for a longer stay. We currently have 49 seasonal site holders that call Lake Minnewasta home for the summer months. At the campground office, where I'm located right now, we stock some confectionery items for the convenience of our beachgoers and the campers. But here at the office, you can also purchase your passes. Getting back into the passes, facilities that we have here that you can take part in, we have walking and biking trails, there's ping pong tables, there's swimming available, obviously, boating, tubing, water skiing, sailing. Yeah, I've even seen somebody do some windsurfing here last year, which was kind of cool. The paddle club is located down on the beach where you can rent kayaks and paddle boards. There's fishing, of course, on the lake, and new this year is the Splish Splash water park. Fees we call them facility passes, not to be mistaken as a vehicle pass, although it is per vehicle that we charge. It's not for parking, it's for the use of all the facilities. So our daily passes are $9. And the better deal is obviously for the season pass, which is $42. And that, again, that's per vehicle, but it's not a parking pass. So if you are dropping your kids off at the beach and heading back to work, let's say, a pass is still recommended. It's encouraged on our behalf, because those monies generated from these passes is what allows us to maintain and do the upkeep. So we maintain the beach, the roads, the buildings, the washrooms that are cleaned regularly. We have grass cutting, there's sand upkeep that needs to be done, the trails, and of course garbage pickup, and so much more. So that's what all those fees are for. And of course the $42 for the season gets you right till the next May 15th season, where you would be able to buy another season pass at that time. Hiking trails, or the bike trails, was a private initiative that was started by some avid mountain bikers. They wanted a trail to go around the lake, and so through volunteers, they're the ones who actually kind of made the trail around the lake. And there are over 10 kilometers of trails available. We have 2 levels is what we'd call it. There's a fairly aggressive path that you could take, and then an easier path. But it's a full day hike, a little over 10 kilometers on foot. Takes up a few hours of your time to walk it. So if you plan on coming out, stop by the office. We have trail maps that you can pick up. Make sure you pack yourself some water, because it can be a little daunting if you're not used to hiking. Things to do at the lake. Well, so aside from using the beach and taking in the hiking trails, of course, swimming, boating, and fishing are all available to be had here. Again, we mentioned Splish Splash Water Park, a great shot there. This is a private company that came in to set up shop on our lake for the summer. And so the fees to get into the campground and beach area are separate from what the fees would be for the water park. Same goes for the paddle club. The paddle club fees for renting out kayaks and paddle boards are there for maintenance on any of the craft or purchasing new items that we need, life jackets or more equipment or new oars, those sorts of things for the paddle club itself, which is again something separate from the rest of the campground and beach. Very popular spot for fishing is here at Lake Minnewasta. Of course, ice fishing during the winter months, very popular. This last year, we saw a big increase in the amount of ice fishing shacks, which was great to see. There's also some shore fishing during the spring and summer and fall months. And of course, you can go out on a boat or a canoe. If you're that kind of a fisher person as well, you can do that from there. There are some rules and regulations that you need to follow, licensing and permits that are required for fishing. All boaters are required by law to have their pleasure craft operator's card. So whether you have a boat or a jet ski, you are required to have that card, have done the course, and have that card on you when you're on the water. The police are often out here as well as conservation and checking to make sure that you are all current with your permits and your licenses. If you require one, you can be able to find them online, and I supplied the link right on the screen, boatsmartexam.com/ca. Boats are also needing to be registered. If you have a boat with a 10 horsepower motor or more, you are needing to have it registered. And the link is provided on the screen as well for that. And also, you need a fishing license. You can get that as well online, or I believe I saw Video Visions in Morden is one of several places that you can purchase them in town if you prefer to do it in person rather than online. Fishing shacks, if you are an ice fisher, those fishing shacks need to be removed from the lake by March 31st. And we're asking owners of those fishing shacks to have posted on the outside of the shack the name of the owner and a phone number in case we need to get a hold of you. If you're wanting to put an ice shack or you have more questions about it, please contact the Manitoba Conservation Office in Manitou. That's the district office. The number is on the screen. What kind of fish can you find here? Well, we are very well known for the black crappie. It's not a large fish, but I've seen some be caught here and released, which are trophy size. So it's a very common fish for people to want to catch around here. There's also northern pike, so it's a little longer fish, medium to large size. White sucker has been caught here at the lake. It's not one of the more popular catches, but it has been caught here within the last year. And a fish that I didn't even know existed is called the pumpkin seed, which is also a very small fish, about the same size as a black crappie, maybe a little bit smaller. And that is what's available to be caught here as well. And that kind of ends all my official information that I have, but I'm here for any questions that anybody might have.
Thanks, Brian. We do have a question that came up on our conversation here. It says, if I take the children to play at the beach or take them to swimming lessons, do I need to buy a season pass?
It's probably advised to buy a pass, especially if you're coming up here frequently. So when you register for swimming lessons at the Access Event Center, or if you did it here at the campground office this year, which is the way we did it, you are offered the opportunity to buy the season pass at that time. It's because, again, the facilities are being used, and those fees help us maintain our facilities, whether it's to keep the bathrooms clean or to make sure that the beach is cleaned and groomed every day. So all these things require, the maintenance all requires money. So my answer for that would be a short yes, but it is a long explanation as to why.
I can relate. I know we always get a season pass for the beach there. All you do is you clip it onto your rear view mirror, and you don't have to worry about having to show it physically. If it's on your vehicle, you drive through, they see it, they open the gate, and you're in. It's very, really, very easy. Yeah,
it's really no hassle. We really want to make it as easy as possible for people to come and enjoy the lake. And of course, we just want to reiterate, it costs a lot of money to run it, and these fees pay for everything that goes on here at the campground. And so, there are times when the gatehouse isn't open, but the campground office is. You can always stop by the office if the gatehouse is closed. We're here from 8 a.m. till 9 p.m. Throughout most of the summer months. And if you have any questions, we encourage you to even stop in and chat with us. We have boating guides and camping guides that are available, and they answer a lot of the questions that people often have.
That's great. Another question came through, and I guess it kind of tags on what you just mentioned. What are the office hours and the gate hours?
Yeah, so the gate this year, we always try to towards the most opportune for us because of staffing. So this year we're running it from 10 a.m. till 7 p.m. And not that, like, some may come at 6:45 right before the gate would close. And then they want to just come to the beach for an hour. And that's a common question, or they want to go for a drive, or they just want to use the hiking trails. Again, we just like to encourage everybody to lean towards the season pass. Then you can come and go. There's no question, no worry. You won't be asked questions when you pull up to the gatehouse. They'll just let you through because you have the pass. But all of these things, we encourage people to pick up the pass, whether it's the seasonal or the daily. If you are just passing through, you're not ever going to come back to the beach, so to speak, but you want to come just for the day. Maybe you're from out of town. Those, that's what the daily passes are for. But in the long run, $42, if you spread that out over the year, is a very affordable price. I know sometimes it's a little hard to swallow that pill the first time, but you're covered. When you consider the cost of $9 every time you come, it doesn't take very many visits for you to use up that 42.
It only takes like 5 visits, and then
Right.
you're paid up. So if you actually want to go every day of the week, it's pretty easy. The nice thing is even to compare to a pool pass. So you pay for a family to go to a pool. It costs, for a person to go to a pool, it's $75. For a family, it can be upwards of $300. And it's a lot less hassle, a lot more convenient than to just pull up to the beach. There is some questions here around safety at the beach. So maybe just I'm going to give you a few points to kind of cover in your conversation. Someone wants to know if there's lifeguards on duty. Someone would like to know, are there life jackets available for families to use if they need one for their child or themselves? And what would you do in the event of an emergency?
All very good questions. We don't have lifeguards on duty. I know in years past they've had beach patrols to try to just to give some security for people. And again, that was a staffing concern that we had. It was hard to find the people to take these shifts. So we introduced, I think this began last year, we introduced a life jacket lending program, which runs most days from 11 till 4. But right now, our paddle club runs out of the same beach shelter. So it's from noon till 6. So you could easily use a life jacket and they're free to use. Stop by the beach shelter, talk with our paddle club staff, and they would gladly lend you a life jacket for yourself and for your children so that you can play safely. And I know one of our signs as you go down to the beach, it's kids don't float. So set an example for your children, wear a life jacket as well when you go. And it's like wearing a bike helmet when you go biking. It's just a nice safety thing to have and give some security that way. In the event of an emergency, we encourage people to call 911 right away. Some of our staff here are trained. Myself, I have my first aid course, and we also have an AED in the campground office if ever required. So we have some abilities to do some quick first aid. But again, if it's a severe emergency, we encourage people to call 911 immediately and get the help here as quickly as possible.
Thank you. That's very important. We want to make sure people can be as safe as possible. So if you are planning to go to the beach, we do always encourage people to purchase a life jacket if they can afford it. But if they can't, just go to the office and ask. We want to I think we're all on the same page where safety is number one. And the beach, it gets deeper. It's shallow in the beginning, but as you go into the water, it will increasingly get deeper. So it's important for swim safety, especially if kids want to jump off the dock or do things like that they remain safe when doing so. I appreciate that information. There is a question, it's more of a clarification. If you were to drive your bike there rather than in your car, is that automatically free, or how does that work?
Yeah, we have the Kinsman Trail, which you can come from in town. I believe it hooks up with Alvey Street in Morden. It takes you through the golf course. So of course, if you're walking in, um, it's something that we don't have a gate at the Kinsman Trail. People with bikes um, historically have been coming through. Um, so technically, we don't ask people on a bike to purchase a pass to get in. But I'll just uh, I'll pose a scenario. I know of a lady who comes somewhere between 6 and 7 a.m. every morning to kayak. She never comes during the day when our gate is open or our office is open. But because she knows she comes to use the facilities, she'll bike, she'll use the public washroom that's up here before she leaves. So she still uses the facilities. She buys a season pass, even though she's never here when any staff are here. So again, it's something that we don't enforce. If people feel that their contribution would help support what we do here and keep a facility like this running, so that in the long term we can offer better services or improvements, whichever require. I would thank that person very much if they would. But again, it's something that we can't really enforce, and it's kind of hard to chase down somebody on a bicycle if
Yeah.
it's coming through. So
I think it's important to recognize the difference between Lake Minnewasta and a provincial park. And I think that's something we wanted to bring this forward in a way that if people were to go to any community park or recreation, outdoor recreation facility, this would be a good place to start. But provincial parks are protected and funded by the government, and Lake Minnewasta is not a provincial park, if I'm correct.
that's right.
And
Yeah,
so they are required to maintain the cost, the maintenance cost, all within the money that they come in. So that's important to know, that that's different than if you go to Pembina Valley Provincial Park or other areas like that. So
yes, exactly. So provincial parks, whether it be the Pembina Valley or Stephenfield or St. Malo, or even if you go to the Riding Mountain National Park, I mean, there's gate fees that you have to pay, but they're good. You buy your provincial pass at Stanley Park, you can still get into. Sorry, pardon me. At Stephenfield, you can get into St. Malo with that same pass. This campground and recreational area is owned municipally, so it's owned by the city of Morden, and so all the funds that we generate here is what we work with in order to maintain and to do upgrades.
that's great. So just a little bit of information about other stuff that was talked about, or some questions that came up. Can people come to the campground after and before the season opens? So we talked about the season being from May to, what did you say, September? I could go
September
back.
15th. Yeah, that's
And then that kind of steers off into the next question that's here in the fishing shacks. So how would that affect people who want to come and do ice fishing?
right. So the office and the gatehouse. I'll rewind a little bit. So the May 15th to September 15th is when the campground is officially open for camping. That's our camping season. So now we're staffed for that. So our campground office is open during that time frame. We typically get the gatehouse open in time for grad weekend. this year was a special year because school was different for everyone. So we opened the gatehouse a little bit earlier because we saw the traffic was really starting to increase. So after September 15th, there's nobody here well, I linger for a couple of weeks after as I'm cleaning up, but there's no one here to check for to passes or for you to buy passes. So again, the best value for your dollar is to get it early in the season. You're good and you're covered until we open up again the following year. But again, there's nobody at the gate. There's nobody at the office. We're not checking for passes. Again, it's now we're going on an honorary system, and we hope that people are being respectful. And you know, a lot of the facilities are closed here in the off season, so some of the maintenance is down, but sometimes there's damage that occurs over the winter, so there are still costs that come after the winter is done. So if anybody finds that they use the recreational area, whether it's tobogganing or they come skating on the pond, they go snowshoeing, or they put up an ice shack and go fishing, we hope maybe they bought a pass earlier in the year, and we'd thank you for that. That $42 that you bought for that season pass will help us keep it going. But again, it's not monitored, it's not checked. It's
I think that's really good to know, because people that drive there and the gate's not, you know, being managed after season, and they're taking their kids to the beach. It's very important to know that there is nobody at the office. It is important to remain as safe as you can when you're using facilities, because if something were to happen and you ran to the office, it's important to know that that it's a discretion you have to take into consideration, you know?
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And yeah. So when there's nobody here in the off season, you're literally here at your own risk. And so we just want to urge people to, you know, when the ice starts to form or it starts to melt, to heed the warnings that are out there. Stay off if it's too early in the season or it's starting to warm up a bit. The shore starts to melt away and the ice gets thin, and it's not safe. So, and then as far as the ice shacks, I know there's no registration, there's no fee for you to put one out. Just again, I would urge people to direct their calls to the conservation office in Manitou from the number that was provided earlier. And if you have any questions about ice fishing for this specific lake, they would be able to help you with that.
That's great, thank you. Actually, that was one of my next questions, was is it free? So it is free.
Yes.
That's good. So there is a question here about the fish. Do I need to report my fish to anyone to make sure that I stay under my limit with my license?
Again, I think that's it's a conservation question. I'd have to direct it to them. I wouldn't know. I don't fish, so I don't have a lot of the details.
I know that there are limits to what you can allow, like what you're allowed to fish, but do they have to go to the office and say, here's my 3 fish before I leave? Is it honor system?
Yeah, that's an honoring thing. We have no way of, it's not monitored by us. We can't enforce anything. That's a conservation area. So we just have access to the lake. So a lot of the boating and the fishing is a conservation district, and we just provide an access to it. But we'd love to answer any questions that we can.
And just when we're using the word honor system, to explain what that means that you go there and you do these things, and you are responsible to follow the rules that are provided to you. So that's when we say honor system, that's what we mean. So there isn't people checking your fish, isn't people checking your licenses and stuff, but they have the right to do that. If they question what you're there for and things like that, they do have the right to request to see your license and that you're under those limits. So just so that we know when people are going that, yeah, that's the outcome. Are trail maps available online?
I don't think we have an online, like a digital form of that. I know it's something that we've talked about wanting to put online. But I think, like, I was talking with Stephanie Duick, who helps me with a lot of the Lake Minnewasta website stuff. And one of the things that she asked about was a trail map. I know we have paper copies here at the office, but we were looking at trying to get that added to the website. I'm not sure if it's up there yet.
That's great. No, and that's good to know. We want people to check in too. I think it's always important, if it's your first time or even if it's your fifth time, check in at the office, make sure you have everything you need before you continue to move on. And so getting your maps from there is a good way to check in so that they know people are in the property. And
yeah, and there's just some housekeeping requests that we have when you do go out on the trail. You know, to anything you bring in to bring it back out. Like, don't leave garbage. The trail is very difficult to manage if people just littered and left their garbage along their way. We don't have access with our vehicles to get there. It has to be done on foot. So we have garbage and recycling receptacles at the trailheads. So we just ask people to, whatever you bring in, bring it back out with you, throw it out when you get there. Also, if the trails are muddy, maybe it rained overnight, to maybe not, like, to stay off of the trails, because it's very slippery for one, so for a safety concern. Also, it really damages the trail, whether you're on foot or you're on bike. And then if, because hikers and bikers are using the same trail, we're just asking for hikers to always be aware of the bikers and to give them some way. Sometimes the hills are quite steep. Anybody that has mountain biked around it would know that sometimes you require a little bit of speed to make it up the next hill. So as a person who is hiking, always have an ear out for anybody else using the trail, and to make way for them, and then everybody just to be so courteous to each other that to allow that to happen so that everybody can use the trail safely.
My husband's an avid hiker, so and a biker, so he's told me stories of that. You know, he doesn't mind hikers, but yeah, he needs that room to get. Otherwise, he's getting off his bike and walking it up, and that's exhausting too. So
exactly, yeah.
Maybe just in the sense of safety on the trails, is there relatively decent cell reception in the event that something were to happen?
There are areas, I know I've hiked it myself, there are areas that the cell reception isn't great. The further west, deeper into the bush you might go, the harder it would be to get cell service. A quick story: we had somebody out on the trail last year and was able to get to an area where they could call our campground office to get directions. They didn't have a map. They kind of got turned around and didn't know where they were, and tried to find their way back. Luckily, we were able to get enough landmarks from her that we were able to drive out there and pick her up at the nearest access point. So yeah, I couldn't say for sure would you have full cell service all the way around the lake. There are emergency access markers from a bike race that they had last year that the Morden Fire Department had put up, which is always good to know if you are on the trail, to make note of where your nearest access point is, so that in the case of emergency, you can let somebody know, oh, I'm between, you know, marker 7 and marker 8. Or if it happens to be letters, you're between marker F and marker G, so that you know, people, if they need to come find you. I would also tell people, I know it's not that treacherous out there, but if you're ever going on a hike by yourself, to let somebody know where you're going and when you plan to be back.
I was just going to mention that, like, either let somebody know you're actually on the hike there, or even check in with the office so that they know that,
Yeah,
in case somebody calls and wants to know if you're there or if, you know, where you may be.
exactly.
No, that's good. I appreciate that safety information. For some people, it's their first time, and so it's nice to know this stuff before they go on the trails. Just one more question here. Actually, yeah, one more question. No, I have two questions that have come up. One of them is just to discuss the message that Splish Splash Water Park is a private company that has put their activity entertainment on the beach. It is a separate it's, I guess, service than what the city of Morden, like you said, the fees are different. What would they need to do if they have problems or have questions about the Splish Splash Water Park? Are there people, I know that there's staff on board there at times, but how would they address anything that has to do with Splish Splash?
Yeah, so yeah, they have staff here all summer long, 7 days a week, whether during their regular business hours, which are noon till 8. Or you could find out more information or even email questions to the owners through their website. I believe it's splishsplashwaterpark.com. I hope that's the right one. I think that's their website.
I'll check and then I'll add it to our video link here. So
even if you were to Google Splish Splash Water Park Morden, you'll get directions to the website either way. So I know they run it with some strict safety concerns. They have lifeguards. They have lifeguards on duty because that's part of their contract to make sure that the people that are on the park have the utmost in safety. You are required to wear a life jacket, which is available by the park staff themselves. They have their own life jackets, which are separate from the campground. Yeah, so if you're coming here to take part and enjoy the water park, stop by the office. They have a kiosk here where they could answer any of your questions. They can sell you your wristbands and get you set up. There's waivers available online that you can fill out ahead of time as well.
Okay, that's great. And one more question here. Do people have to clean their fire pit after they have had a fire? Or do some special people clean it?
Yeah, so our maintenance staff do clean out the fire pits. One of the things that we commonly find, unfortunately, is people putting garbage in their fire pits. We have free garbage bags and recycling bags available in the office. So if you ever need one, just stop by the office. We'll gladly give you some. There are big garbage bins for you to drop your garbage off in. But as far as your regular ash that would be left behind from burning firewood, that we clean out for you after your stay is gone, or if you required it during your stay at some point because you've burnt a lot, we come out and we clean that out for you.
That's great. So I don't have any more questions. I'm just going to give about 10 to 15 seconds here for anybody else who has questions based on what Brian's discussed or anything that has to do with the lake that maybe wasn't talked about. This is a good time to ask those questions. Okay, so there's one here that came from my messages through work. Are there any COVID-related changes to this year that we should be aware of?
Absolutely. We have currently on our website our phase 2, which is what we're currently in. Our protocols that we have here, we encourage the social distancing. We encourage people to follow the provincial guidelines to keep your group sizing to the allowable size. Any out of province travelers need to be self-contained in their camper unit and not use our public facilities unless they've been in the province for their 14-day quarantine time. Because we often have people that travel across the country. It's summertime and they're traveling. We've had people call and say, can we stay a night as we travel through? Well, you certainly can. We just ask you not to use our washrooms, and please use your onboard facilities and keep to your own campsite and not to mingle with the other campers for that safety reason. Staff and customers are encouraged to monitor themselves regularly. If they show symptoms, to not come into our premises and to follow the guidelines, that if they feel that they have the symptoms, to go get tested. We provide hand sanitizers in every one of our buildings. Our shower facilities have, we've put in spray sanitizer that our campers that are using the showers are asked to spray down the shower stall before and after their use. And other than that, I think everybody's been behaving quite well, considering how eager we were all to get out into the summer and to enjoy it and not be locked up in our homes. I think for the most part, everybody's been behaving themselves well and showing good coughing etiquette and washing their hands regularly, not touching their faces and not shaking hands with others, and all the important things that have been passed down to us from the province. And,
That's great.
And hopefully phase 3 will allow maybe the groups to get a little bit larger. We'll see what happens when that gets announced.
And if I'm correct, I think the City of Morden does a very good job of updating their website, cityofmorden.ca/COVID-19. And there'll be valuable information there too if you have questions about updated information. I'm going to provide those links that you have put in your PowerPoint here. I'm going to provide them with our video link when we upload this video. And if anybody has questions, is it best that they call the recreation department or to call the beach, or how does this?
Yeah, if they have any questions regarding the campground or the lake or the beach, they can certainly call us here at the campground, 204-822-4991. They can also email me directly at btiessen@mymorden.ca.
And Thiessen is spelled Thiessen.
That's correct.
All right. Well, thank you, Brian, for taking the time this afternoon to do this for us and to present on this topic. It's very valuable, and we were able to answer a lot of questions. Again, this webinar is recorded and will be available on Regional Connections YouTube page. And so if you have others who are interested in listening and learning about Lake Minnewasta, feel free to share the link with them. All right. Thanks again, Brian.
Thank you.
Have a great day.
You too.
Bye.
Bye-bye.